Are you ready to talk about the television series Lost? Alright, y'all, welcome back to another episode of the Long Lost Podcast. I'm Lyra.
It's me, it's Lana.
And this week we're talking about Season 1, Episode 15, Homecoming. But before we do that, we're gonna banter a little bit. Is that what we do? It's been so long since we fucking recorded.
It's been a minute. I think there was a day when you were having a day.
Yes.
And we pushed it, and then I was sick forever.
Yeah.
I still am a little bit sick, but I'm gonna push through for the good of the pod. I'm alright. I'm doing okay.
For the good of the pod.
But yeah, it has been a minute. It's been long enough that we are, in fact, caught up to ourselves.
Yes, which we might need to record an extra one at some point.
I like being caught up to ourselves. It's nice. The buffer is necessary to not miss any. But I like that the one that just happened is the one that just happened. It feels right in a way.
Yeah. So did you watch this episode
twice?
Okay, you saw it twice. I also saw it twice. The first time was like several weeks ago or whatever.
Yeah.
Second time was today. How was it?
Yeah, so I think your theory, which is obviously at least partially true, of impression of episode has a lot to do with how your day is going.
Uh-huh.
I think was borne out for me with this episode.
Like, if you were having a good day, then you were like, nice. And if you were having not a good day, you were like, God damn it.
I don't even know, to be honest. All I know is the first time I watched it weeks ago,
uh-huh,
I think I was having a bad day.
Okay.
I wrote some notes, I had some thoughts, I had some opinions. My closing notes that I wrote down was just one word, and that one word was poopy.
Okay.
On my rewatch today, I'm not having a great day today. I'm exhausted. I've been sick for fucking 2 weeks straight. And I just worked 9 hours, and I worked 9 hours for the past 3 days, so I'm, like, tired.
Uh-huh.
But it was a fine day. I don't know. It wasn't bad aside from life. And I watched it again, and I was like, you know what? I thought that was fine. I don't know.
Yeah, I also warmed up on it on a second viewing.
That's really interesting. I wonder why that is.
Maybe we'll find out right now when we talk about the episode.
Lost.
How does this episode start? Well, the previously on basically fills us back in about all the shit that happened with Ethan. And if we remember at the end of the last episode, Claire just like kind of appeared out of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
So this episode starts with
Claire.
Basically, Claire getting brought back to the caves by Locke and Boone. And basically, like, she's unconscious and Jack's trying to help her. People are all crowding around. Charlie's like, what's wrong with her? Is she okay? Everybody's like, is she okay? And when she wakes up from being unconscious, she freaks the fuck out. And she's like, who are all of you?
Yep.
And that's our cold open before the credits go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's setting up that this episode, I guess they decided that Claire has not only amnesia about what happened when she was kidnapped, but also amnesia about the entire series.
Yeah, it's a choice.
How do you feel about said choice?
Pretty bad.
Same.
So, like, it's weird. We talked about the first watch and the second watch, warming up to on the second watch.
Uh-huh.
I still have a lot of criticisms from my first watch, right?
Uh-huh.
And honestly, maybe it's as much as just like the first watch, I'm watching it more critically. And the second watch, I'm kind of just more watching it as a casual viewer, you know? Because I'm like, okay, I already watched this. I got my critical analysis done. I'm just going to refresh on it. Maybe that's the difference, to be honest, for me.
Like, if you start doing criticism, then you start picking apart everything and you're like, oh, this is actually shit.
Yeah. Which might happen through the course of this, talking about it. But yeah, I don't like it at all. And I think we should... I'm just going to talk about stuff that hasn't necessarily happened yet in the episode, and that's going to be fine. They do a bit of... I got a hint of time manipulation stuff, right? Because they tell her, oh, it's been a month since blah, blah, blah. And she's like, what? A month? It couldn't have been. My baby's due, and blah, blah, blah. And I got just the vaguest hint of, like, maybe it's not amnesia, maybe it's time weirdness. And I liked that feeling, that hint. But
the sense that there's like a mystery there as opposed to just like, we didn't really know what to do, so she forgot everything.
Yeah, but it doesn't... I think that it stays as a hint and that that's not the answer. That's not what happened. That it's just like, yeah, she actually does just have very, very, very specific amnesia. And I think that is not interesting. I think it is boring. I think it's pretty lazy writing. I don't think it's interesting or cool. It's funny too. Jack addresses it. He's like, the odds that she has this weird, very specific amnesia, I think it's Jack that says it, is not high. Or maybe, no, it's Saeed, right? Later on.
Yeah,
goes,
and
like,
Jack also kind of agrees where he's like, this is very unusual.
He goes, it's very weird, but I guess it theoretically could happen. But yes, Saeed is just like, this is very strange. And I'm like, yes, I feel like this happens sometimes where they'll write something and then have somebody point out like, wow, isn't that kind of weird or dumb?
Like,
and it's like
stuff that way.
But it's just like, yeah, it is. You didn't make it better.
Yeah, the amnesia thing is, it's like a boring choice. It just feels bad that all of whatever her dynamics with other characters were prior to this get like reset, sort of.
Yeah.
And like
totally.
this episode's gonna be about Charlie and her, and like I guess we'll talk about where they end up, but I guess as a light spoiler, it feels like kinda it was a waste of time because it seems like they're just trying to converge back on where they were in the first place. So it's like, okay.
Yeah, they didn't even do it because they wanted to like really sour that relationship and make it. I still think amnesia is dumb to go about it, but like, yeah, imagine at the end of this episode, she's like, I get that maybe we were friends once, but like, I fucking hate you, Charlie.
Yeah, then it would be like creating lasting conflict, but instead it's just like this weird thing that seems very kind of pointless, TBH.
I agree. And there's other stuff about this episode that I think towards the end I'll want to talk about, just in terms of, we've talked about how they've got a lot of episodes to fill, so we're going to have some times that feel like filler.
Totally.
And that's fine. That's how TV works, especially in 2004. That's how TV worked. I'm not complaining about that, but what I am saying is that I feel like there were instances where they almost did something too quickly or sped something up when it's like, yo, you got all this time. You could have done something more interesting here with more time.
Yeah.
But instead you really snapped through it when you already have all this time that you're going to need to kill later. But we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, so then this episode basically resumes with like, well, there's a couple of very brief conversations people are having about what happened. One of them that I thought was funny is that Boone is like asking Locke, he's like, what do you think happened? And Locke is like, dude, I know the exact same thing as you. And Boone's just like, but I'm a dumbass. Please tell me what you think is going on.
This is not a good episode for Boone. I mean, I don't know which episode was a good episode for Boone, but
like none of them. Yeah.
Oh boy, I don't get it. To be honest, I don't know why they made Boone is a boring character because he is so shitty. Yeah,
I mean, he's not involved in any kind of interesting conflicts or dynamics or whatever, you know.
Well, no, also he is dumb, does bad things, and is unlikable, and that isn't good, because like I want to feel things when I'm watching media, right? I want to feel conflicted, be like, gosh, yeah, Boone is dumb and he does dumb things, but God, he's got a great heart and he's really trying, so I'm rooting for him. That does not happen.
Yeah.
He's not charming like Sawyer. It's just interesting to me, and I assume it's a choice, maybe it's an accident, but that they really did just pick a character to make just really, really unlikable in every way. Like, he's almost the villain in a weird way, where it's just like, there's nothing you want to root for this guy about, yeah.
It's so weird. It is very weird, yeah.
Just talk about Jin and Sun, because I had a small weird thing about that.
They have a couple little scenes like this, like throughout the episode, but it's just worth summing them all up now, which is basically they have a couple of conversations where Jin is like, what do you think's happening? And Sun's like, I don't know, my beloved husband. I definitely don't speak English. And then Jin's like, I bet everybody hates us. And that's kind of each of those conversations.
So the way that Jin is shot in this episode, particularly in this first scene with him, and the music on top of it really makes me feel like they're painting him as nefarious or evil or sinister. Did you get this vibe?
I mean, that's kind of like how he's been depicted, you know, because of like how he treats Sun and like because he was involved in the mob or something, some kind of violent crime, right?
It felt weird to me because I'm not seeing him doing anything sinister here.
Right. Him being like, I wonder what's going on is not sinister at all.
Did you get the vibe that he is suspicious about whether or not Sun can speak English? Because I didn't get that vibe. Maybe
no, I didn't get that vibe either.
Okay, so what are we doing here? Like
it's kind of weird. I'm not exactly sure why these scenes are in the episode. I guess it's like,
wouldn't this be the part to put in him seeing getting a glimpse of her exchanging words with somebody, maybe, and then being suspicious? Like, isn't this where you do that? Because he's like asking her, is the baby okay? Is Claire okay? What are they like? Wouldn't this be the place to do that?
I guess they're like, they just don't want to play that card yet. I mean, it's also,
why are we getting these scenes? What are these scenes
I don't know.
doing? It's so
weird.
Yeah,
it's pretty weird because they don't. It's like Jin sort of. I feel like it's like that they kind of don't know what to do with these characters, and they're like, let's have something happen involving them. But they're not involved at all in any storylines in the episode. Yeah, they just kind of, here's what's going on with them. It's kind of like if they just had a scene with Michael and Walt was like, Dad, what's going on? Michael was like, shut up, son.
Yeah.
And it's like...
Speaking of just kind of recapping stuff, the Boone Locke exchange is terrible recapping of past episodes. They just are like, you know, Locke is like, yeah, they had Claire for 2 weeks. Ethan had Claire for 2 weeks when he kidnapped her in the woods. It's just really bad recapping. It's just like a really terrible exposition writing.
Yeah, they just like have to throw that stuff in. It's like, was the like timeline stuff like adding up for you? Like, I was feeling very weird about that. That
I just Jack's didn't bother thinking about it.
Well, Jack's like, we've been here for almost a month.
And she was taken for 2 weeks, then she was taken halfway in.
Yeah, she was taken for 2
No, you're
weeks.
right. That is, well...
It's like the first couple episodes, I guess, happen over like a short amount of days, like the pilot and the next episode and stuff. Those happen over the first couple of days. Like, and
they did have
but basically,
some
that's averaging like each episode is only 2 days.
They had a skip with like, you know, with the Locke and Boone were like, or Shannon was like, you guys have been in there for 3 days or 4 days or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's some time. I don't know. It didn't bother me because I just was not going to... If they want to tell me that that's the timeline and it makes sense, I'm willing to just shut my brain off and go, okay, sure.
It's not like egregious enough that you're like, how? It's just like, it just feels a little weird. So the next thing that happens is basically like Charlie and Claire are talking, and Claire is like, hey, Charlie, did we know each other or whatever? Is that basically what this scene is?
Yeah, she's like, oh, so we were friends? And Charlie's like, yeah, we were friends. And then she asks about Ethan, and Charlie gives just what is probably really got to be the worst line answer of the episode, right? Yeah.
It's so weird.
He said,
Claire's like,
it's so bad. No, go for it.
Claire's like, and who was Ethan? Because she like doesn't remember Ethan at all. And Charlie's like, he thinks about it for a long time, and then he's like,
Ethan's the bad guy.
It's like terrible. It's horrible.
It's like, what? It's so weird. It doesn't like make sense as a thing that like anyone would say. Really?
No, anyone would say ever, and unless you're breaking the fourth wall and commenting on your own narrative. But
right.
I don't think that's what this show is. I don't think this show is doing some like Rick and Morty fourth wall shit or nothing. Like, it was really weird.
Yeah, it feels like Charlie would just be like, we don't know.
Yeah,
right?
Or even, like, here's the thing. It's a terrible line. But the article there, not saying Ethan, it would still be a terrible line. But you could say Ethan's a bad guy. And you'd be like, oh, okay, he's a bad dude, right?
Yeah, it's weird that he's like the bad guy.
Yeah, to say the bad guy is very, very strange. It's very strange. It's weird to watch. I don't think I can effectively communicate how weird that line is to watch as a viewer.
Yeah, it feels very inorganic. Dominic Monaghan doing his best, but it's pretty weird.
Yeah.
All right, this kicks off the first flashback, which leads us into Charlie. He's with, I guess,
a scumbag.
Yes, his scumbag friend who may or may not be one of the other members of Drive Shaft. I don't really know because we never really met them. Yeah, he's some scumbag friend. And basically, they're at a bar, right? And Charlie's scumbag friend is like, all right, man, it's your time to do the thing. See that lady over there? Her dad is fucking wealthy, so put the charm on and go get us some money for drugs.
Yep.
And Charlie goes over there and does a little flirting or whatever.
Yep.
So I guess we can presume this is taking place in the period
middle
of life.
Of...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, between Drive Shaft kind of like falling apart and Charlie flying to the island that he's now on.
I thought the flashbacks were bad and made the episode worse this episode. But yeah.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think on a second viewing, there is sort of some stuff going on with Charlie that intellectually I can be like, well, that's a little thing, I guess, that they're doing, even if it's unintentional, which we'll talk about. But basically,
yeah.
Yeah, basically this is Charlie's toxic masculinity episode, right?
Yeah, and also for me, I think that they should have done a better job realizing when they have a high tension, high excitement island episode that they should probably scale back the time given to flashbacks. That's what I think.
Yeah, to focus more on the
because it's kind of a mood killer when you're getting amped or excited about something going down on the island, and then you cut back to Charlie flirting with a girl in a bar.
Yeah, some random stranger that we've never met or whatever.
That's just my thinking.
Yeah, we'll talk about it, I guess, as we get further along.
Yeah, when we get more of them in.
Okay, so then the next scene, we're back on the island, right? And we're getting the bro council.
Yeah, I was about to say, they're having a man meetup.
They're having it's the men are talking. It's Locke and Jack and Saeed, and also Charlie. And
Charlie's
basically,
there. He's a little boy in this conversation, though.
He's tagging along, basically. Yeah.
He's not part of the man meetup.
Yeah. Basically, they are all talking about, what's going on with Claire and her amnesia. This is the scene where they're, pretty weird, right? Saeed's like, hey, this is pretty weird. And Jack's like, yeah, it is weird, but it's possible that her amnesia is, really happening or whatever. And Charlie, at a certain point, is like, you know what? I'm going to go talk to Claire rather than talking about her behind her back or whatever.
Yeah.
You tell him, Charlie.
Yeah.
And I don't know. There's not that much to say about that little scene.
No, there's not. I don't. Yeah. I mean, I thought that Saeed was kind of reasonable, to be honest.
Yeah. What is his point? He's kind of
So maybe it's because I'm predisposed to like him because he's a little cutie. But I don't even think he was really saying, we should be really suspicious and think that she's a spy. He was just saying, let's keep in mind this is fucking weird. And, just be open to, that's a factor, that this is not a normal thing, that, something weird might be going on here.
Yeah. Well, he's also just how did she get away from him?
Yeah. And that's kind of putting suspicion on her, and he is kind of putting suspicion on her, but I don't think he's going fully fledged, I think she's a spy. I think he's just hey, let's keep this in mind. The
circumstances here are weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So then as Charlie is, leaving, he runs into Jin in the jungle, and the two of them are walking back, and Charlie's talking to Jin, and he's like, man, it must be great not knowing what the fuck is happening all the time, because there's a bunch of nightmare stuff happening here.
I actually really liked that bit.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because it's it's interesting to think about seeing it from Jin's point of view, where, he doesn't know anything about French, distress calls for so many years, and Ethan Rom, and he doesn't know none of that. He's just trying to get some fish. It's interesting. Yeah,
it must be very confusing for him when people are just, conspiring, and people are disappearing and shit. And
then Sawyer's punching Boone, and then, yeah.
Yeah. One thing that I did think was funny is that Charlie is like, there's no giant monster for you. And it's well, I think Jin is aware.
That's the one thing, maybe.
Monster.
That is a good point.
He's probably
I had
aware
not
of
thought about
the
that,
giant
but that is funny.
screaming sounds and stuff from the jungle.
Not a good example, Charlie.
Yeah, like the polar bear. There's no way that Jin has any idea about that.
Yeah.
So, but then as they're walking, there's a weird sound, and suddenly Jin gets hit with the sling, and he's knocked out.
I think he gets hit with a rock, not with a sling, but
yeah, with a rock. A sling.
I was making a joke. Got to throw in them humorous bits.
Good job. I'm proud of you.
Thanks.
So Jin gets knocked unconscious, and then Ethan Rom emerges from the woods, and he like kind of beats Charlie up a little bit, and he's like, "All right, Charlie, bring Claire to me, or I'll start killing other survivors, and I'll kill one every night that Claire is not back with me. Fuck you." and then he wanders off, I guess. That's their whole exchange.
How did you like this scene? Because I got feels.
I want to hear your feelings.
I did not. I buy it canonically because it's what's happening, but I was not bought into Ethan being scary or interesting. To me, he's still that weird guy. And they kept like shooting to shots because he was like holding Charlie up by the throat or whatever. So Charlie's feet were dangling. They kept shooting shots. And he's just wearing these like dad tennis shoes. And like his whole vibe is just like weird white guy at the office who doesn't have any friends, which could be scary, but just wasn't to me. I just was not. He wasn't a spooky figure to me throughout this whole episode. I was never like, I never felt like, oh no, Ethan.
Yeah. He was spookier as, like, kind of weird guy who, like, when he was blending in with the survivors.
Yeah, when he wasn't talking just like that. It just really didn't work for me, and that hurt the episode a lot. The fact that I didn't find Ethan himself to be, like, this scary figure.
This is, like, setting up this little conflict for the episode, though. So, like, that shit happens, and Charlie runs back to the man squad. But right now it's only Jack and Locke. And basically they're debating how to handle this.
Yeah. They're planning like men.
Yeah, they're planning. What are we going to do? How are we going to protect everyone?
Jack wants to tell everybody. Locke wants to tell a select few. Jack wants to get everybody together in the caves and set up a defense. And Locke, this is a part that I thought Locke was really dumb. And I'm like, okay, Locke, I like you a lot, but this was dumb. Locke is like, no, we shouldn't all be together because what if they wanted us to group up so they could take us all out with one sweep?
Yeah,
I was just like, what the fuck are you talking about, my guy?
Yeah. It's like,
if you stay split up into two groups, that means they're going to take half of you out in one sweep. And
yeah,
that sucks.
Significantly easier.
Yeah, like, I lost respect for Locke here. I did.
It's like you're not like setting up a fucking like battle line or whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe he was just like too in war game mode, you know?
Yeah, you're right.
That's why I was thinking about it. And that's also why he gets got later in the episode.
Yeah.
It has to, because like he was picturing a map grid, not real life. But basically Locke is like, yeah, man, what about all this shit? And Jack's like, well, I guess you have a plan, so what's your plan? But we don't yet find out what the plan is.
The plan is, we'll talk about the plan later, I guess. It's kind of dumb.
Yeah, we will talk about the plan. The next thing that happens is, like, Charlie is talking to Claire, and they're just having a little conversation, and Claire is like, hey, is anything going on? And Charlie's like, no, nothing's going on. And Claire's like, you wouldn't be deceiving me or anything, would you? And Charlie's like, nope. Definitely not deceiving you.
She gives him a real good chance to think about it. She's like, you're not lying to me right now, are you, Charlie? And then he thinks about it for like 4 seconds and goes, no, I'm not lying. Everything is normal. So
yeah, he gives it a long, like a pregnant pause. And he's like, no, it's fine. Charlie being a fucking dumbass.
Yeah.
This is what I mean by it's like the Charlie toxic masculinity episode, because he's like, I gotta protect the lady I like by hiding stuff from
By hiding
her.
really important information from her
Yes.
and not letting her make her own choices. And yeah,
It's very infantilizing.
it is.
Like,
It's not good.
It's like, yeah, dude.
It's also interesting coming from Charlie because, like, I'm fine with it. I don't have any type of issue with it. It's just interesting because he hasn't been the one being portrayed as being hyper macho or masculine or anything, and I've liked that for him. And I think it's fine because you can definitely have people who don't outwardly express themselves as being hyper macho or hyper masculine still have core toxic masculine impulses. So I think it's totally fine. It's just bad for Charlie. I wish Charlie had been better here, but it's fine that he wasn't.
Yeah, it's definitely like, it's not a good side of his character.
Yeah.
Right. So this then goes into a flashback. So Charlie he's gone back to the house of the rich girl or whatever.
And he's scoping it out for shit to
Scoping
steal.
it out. Yeah. There's various, like, very British artifacts and stuff.
Yeah.
And does he... Yeah, this is the part where, like, one of the things he spots is, like, a thing from... It was, like, Winston Churchill's matchbox or something.
Who
like
cares?
that.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. But basically, like, through the course of this conversation, she brings up her dad and is like, you should meet my dad also, because he's going to be around. And Charlie's like, that sounds great. Sounds cool. And that's this scene.
Yep.
One part of this, there is a part where Charlie is like, if you want to invite me back to your house for sex, you should just don't say tea. You should say sex. And like, whatever. I just hate the way that he says, like, just say sex. It's very
okay.
like, just say sex.
You know, if you want to invite me back for sex, don't say tea, say sex.
The little flair he puts on it.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh no,
Yeah.
I don't like that. I didn't care for that.
Was it a dinosaur?
Wasn't a dinosaur.
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 What's happening next?
We get a Jack and a Kate scene, which I once again didn't have a problem with Kate this whole episode. Blessed be.
Nice.
I think this is the one, correct me if I'm wrong, where Kate is basically just like, hey Jack, there's a dude threatening to kill us. Maybe open up those guns you got, dude?
Uh-huh.
And Jack is just like, no, because we just shoot each other when we heard a noise. I'm not doing that. I'm not putting guns in untrained hands. And that's dumb, but it's what happens.
It's like, I get that his point.
I get his point, but it's fucking dumb.
For sure. It's like, yeah, his point is like, seems like it might be a bad idea to just like get guns going around here.
Sure, but this dude beat him up real bad already.
Yeah.
Did a slingshot on Jin and knocked him out. Like,
Uh-huh.
Kate makes a very reasonable point. She's like, this isn't the time to be sharpening knives, Jack. Like, get the gun.
Yeah, it is true that it's like, this guy does seem like, I mean, he means business, right?
Yeah,
he clearly would murder someone, so...
Yeah. I think this is a gun-worthy problem, and Kate also thinks that, and I'm on Kate's side.
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement with Kate in this situation, too, for sure. Then basically they so Jack says, nah, we're not doing guns. So then it goes back to the man squad, who has added Boone to their ranks. And basically they're like, okay, we're going to set up like a perimeter around the two camps, the one on the beach and the one in the caves. They jerry-rig some
noise traps.
Yeah, some noise traps so that if they like with tripwires so that they can hear if somebody enters the perimeter.
They're going to set up 4 of them.
Yes.
Locke is like, we'll set up 4 of these, and then they're all just like, sounds great, awesome. And I'm just like, what? You're going to set up
like
4 traps
around
for
2
this?
different campsites?
Yeah, for this huge space? I just thought that was very silly. Like, I don't know. I guess it didn't really matter too much in the episode. It's fine. I'll buy into the narrative, but I don't know. That just seemed very silly.
I mean, it could be like they are limited on resources or something, right?
Yeah, but like, what are the odds that he happens to walk through a space that is occupied by one of these traps versus not. Like, very low, right?
Yeah, it is like, it's unclear how that is going to
I don't know.
actually be effective.
It's not a big deal. I just thought it was silly.
Sure, yeah. Something I do like from this scene is like Boone, because he's Locke's disciple now, is just kind of like tagging along. Boone is like, I'll help out. And Saeed is just like, okay.
Yeah, it's a very funny line. It's a very funny delivery. I loved it. I really did love it.
I'll take a shift.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's just like a long pause and then being like, okay.
Yeah.
You just like know what thoughts are going through Saeed's head, which
Well,
is great.
and Saeed is not wrong.
No, Saeed is not wrong, as we're going to see pretty shortly.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we are going back into flashback land, right?
Yeah.
And Charlie's at dinner with this woman and her rich dad. This conversation seems like Charlie is charming the dad.
And getting charmed a little bit too, I think.
And getting yeah, that's something that I do kind of like this scene, because like basically it starts where Charlie is like doing the thing where he's being charming and he's like talking about being a rock star, or he's kind of like, it's clear that the dad thinks that that's very cool, that he's like a successful rock guy, and it seems like they're all very impressed with him or whatever. But there's a moment where Charlie kind of like decides to open up, to like be honest a little bit, and he's like, yeah, the band actually is on hiatus because my brother had a daughter. Actually, me and my brother kind of don't get along. I don't think we're going to be getting back together, and it sucks. And I kind of like that it is like this scene where he's like, he has a moment of sort of like earnestness, you know?
I thought it was a good moment. Yeah, no, I did like it.
Yeah, it's like he's not a sociopath, you know? He's not like...
Yeah, the Mark, the girl, and her dad are both supportive of him going through this hard time. Like, they express support for that. And that, obviously, I mean, that's where the story's going, right? But he gets feels about that in terms of like, oh, I am fucked up.
Yeah, totally.
And that's cool. That's good. I like that.
Yeah, because this like immediately then goes to Charlie talking to his scumbag friend, who's like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Get us money for drugs. And Charlie's like, I don't know, man. This guy can hook me up with a legit job.
They seem real nice.
They seem really nice. I also feel like Drive Shaft isn't happening, and I need to get a job.
I need to make money somehow repeatedly instead of whatever this bullshit is.
Yeah, instead of these like scams. And then his friend is like, well, your job starts on Monday and today's Friday, so good luck without your drugs over the weekend, fucking idiot. And Charlie's like, he has a face that's like, uh-oh, oh no.
I do need my drugs.
I do need my drug. Now that you mention it.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about it, but yeah.
Now that, it hadn't occurred to me that I want drugs, and I will need them. It's weird that this has to be like pointed out to him.
It's also funny the notion that like as soon as he starts his job, he will have money for drugs. Like he's gonna get paid day one.
Yes.
For like it's just it's just funny and weird and like I don't know.
It's this weird like characterization of like I can buy the idea of him being like, nah, I'm gonna try and like clean my life up or whatever, but it doesn't seem like much thought was put to that. It feels like it's more like the writers were like, well, there's two kinds of ways you can be. One of them is you can be like an unemployed drug addict who's scheming for money for your fix, or you can be legit and have a job,
an upstanding job holder.
Yeah, because like no white collar workers do drugs, you know, like that's not a thing that happens. It's very weird.
It's very cut and dry. It's very yeah,
and it's like I guess we have to roll with it, but it's another place where it's just like the way that Charlie's addiction is portrayed is very strange, because he's not like, well, this is great, you know, I'll get a job
and then I'll have money for drugs all the time.
Exactly. He's not like, no, I'll pay you back for the drugs because I have this job or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like it's weird. So we go from this flashback back to the island. It's at night. People are, waiting. They're on their lookout posts. But Boone is getting sleepy. He's a little sleepy boy. Oh, it's so hard staying up all night looking for a murderer. And so, Boone fucking falls asleep like a loser.
And then, big time loser. Oh my god.
And then he wakes up at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m., just after sunrise or something, when one of the noise traps goes off. And he's running, and what's happening? And then all the different lookouts converge on one point. They were chasing the dog, I guess. Is that the implication?
I think so, yeah.
Vincent tripped one of the traps. Well, Boone trips and falls.
Yeah.
And then Saeed and Locke find him, and Saeed's what does he say? He just makes fun of him.
Yeah, he's basically just wow, you are a big loser, aren't you?
Yeah. But then, they hear a scream from the beach, and they run to the beach, and an extra died.
Oh.
Oh, fuck. And we find out the extra was Scott?
Or Steve, who cares?
Or Steve. In fact...
They play the joke right here where Sawyer goes, I guess Steve finally ran out of luck or something, and then Hurley goes, dude, it was Scott. And I was like, haha, Scott Steve joke.
Yeah.
They do it again.
A couple times.
And then they do it fucking again 90 seconds later, and I go, okay, this is not funny anymore.
They could have had the one little send off of it. That would have been fine.
Yeah, the one was fine. The callback after they just did it was no.
The second time they do it, the second time is when Hurley is giving Steve Scott's eulogy and is sorry I kept calling you the other one, Steve or Scott, whichever the one you aren't or weren't.
It's not good.
Yeah. It's,
it's supposed to be funny, right? That's a ha-ha line, right?
It's kind of weird because the first one is the first one is
the first one's pushing it, honestly.
It is, because tonally, isn't this a moment where we're supposed to be oh fuck?
So we from here on out, I believe we start running into some serious tonal problems.
Oh yeah?
But yes, tonally it is weird. What makes it okay, I think, is that Hurley does kind of say it not in a... Hurley isn't joking when he says
Hurley's the straight man here, right?
Yeah, Hurley's dude, it was he's kind of put off by that Sawyer didn't even know the guy's name.
Right.
And so it works in the world, and for us, it's a one last callback to Ha Ha Scott Steve. So I think that one is okay. It's pushing it just because they've gone on that so often. And at the beginning, I really liked the Scott Steve. It was funny. Ha ha.
Uh-huh.
This one was fine. Pushing it, but fine. But goddamn, the Hurley one during the eulogy is not okay because they just did it, and because you're giving a eulogy, you're supposed to be not cracking jokes like that.
Yeah, the tone is weird because it's weird. It feels it's confusing whether we're supposed to be oh shit.
No, I totally agree.
Serious,
it's
or
really
whether
weird.
we're supposed to think it's funny that Scott died or Steve died or whatever.
For me, the rest of this episode has very bad tone issues.
Was this better or worse than Claire's funeral from episode 4 or whatever?
Much worse. Because Claire's was bad, but she was giving it her all. She was committing to it and really trying, and Hurley throwing his dumbass little jokes in there is being pretty disrespectful.
Yeah, it's also they've known each other for a month at this point. Claire's thing was for the people they didn't know who all died on the plane.
No, Claire was being very earnest. I remember thinking I really liked that she did that, even though she was bad at it. I liked that she really tried. Hurley's being no, you can't be doing bits during this.
During a eulogy, yeah.
Yeah.
They could have had a little earnest thing, what if, off screen they had been playing golf or something, and Hurley made some little thing about
no,
that.
Because then we wouldn't have gotten the hilarity of another Scott Steve
the same joke again.
And that's a big chuckle fest, so ha 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 ha, this is really the episode for all the chuckles, too.
Oh, yeah. I also just want to point out, this is, just tangential, but when they're talking about... There's a part where Hurley is when they're back on the beach, they just found Scott's body or whatever. I'm just going to say Scott, even though it might be Steve. I don't care.
Sure.
Hurley's are they sure he didn't die on accident? And Kate's nah, his spine was broken and his neck was broken and all his hands were broken and his arms and legs were broken and his whole fucking body was annihilated.
He was so broken.
Like he was like Ethan Rahm killed the fuck out of this guy. He didn't just like stab him or something.
Saying. You need a gun, right? Like
yeah. This guy like crushed him like a grape or something. Like
imagine Boone was awake and on duty and Ethan Rahm just walks up to him like what then?
Yeah.
Like
yeah. Boone would like try to fight him, fall over, and then like Ethan would just like flick him and he would get annihilated.
Beat the fuck out of Jack already. Like absolutely destroyed him.
Seriously. Which
so,
I also have a follow-up.
Yeah.
I have a follow-up on that later, but yeah. It's just very funny. They killed the fuck out of this dude. So everybody's looking at Claire all like, fuck you. Like all the people at the cave. And Claire goes up to Shannon and is like, hey, why is everybody like staring at me? And Shannon's like, nobody told you about what happened? And then it smash cut to Claire going up to Charlie like, hey man, what the fuck? Why didn't you tell me about what was going on? Charlie's like, but I wanted to protect you or whatever. And Claire's like, I can look after myself.
Yep.
Yeah. You tell him. You tell him, Claire.
Yep.
Charlie fucking up in this one.
Yep.
He is fucking up a lot in this episode. Then this brings us back to the flashback. Charlie is looking like he is a melting piece of wax.
Yeah.
He looks so bad and is like wearing a suit. Like he's got the bags under his eyes. He's like sweating like fucking crazy. And it's like it's his first day of work. And
it's his first day of work, right?
Yes.
Like it's not an interview. It's like he has the job and his job is in selling this thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And his girlfriend or whatever, she's like, all right, Charlie, you're gonna do great. Let me just get you a present to make this, your betrayal of me, even more betray-y. And while she's in the other room, Charlie, who is looking like real fucked up, he sees the thing he was gonna steal and he snags it. And then she comes back in the room and she's like, here's a briefcase so that you look nice and professional.
At your big boy job.
She also, like, bought him the suit and stuff because, like, you know, he's broken and shit. And then she's like, she gives him a ride to the place where he's gonna try and sell a printer or whatever.
Yup.
I think they went a little too hard on the makeup IMO because, like...
they went very hard.
If I was looking at this guy and he was about to work, I'd be like, you gotta lay down. You are not... Yeah.
And I think they did it for the next scene, right?
Yes.
With him, that's why they did it. But I agree.
For sure.
They went hard and it wasn't good. So this scene itself, pretty dramatic, I thought. You know, he is... It looks like he's not even... That he's got a choice that he has to make about whether to steal expensive object or not.
Uh-huh.
That he might still... That he still has a chance to not steal it and go on the, you know, straight and narrow path and go to his job and do the job and be a good member of society, right?
Uh-huh.
But he doesn't. He steals the thing. So I just want to point out, dramatic scene.
Yeah, did you appreciate it? Did it land?
I was fine with it. Yeah, it landed fine. Charlie's struggling with choices. It's fine. Yeah, just, you know, drama, a tragedy because, you know, he's failing to do the thing that he somewhere inside him wants to do. And he's failing at that. And I can relate to failing at something you want to do. And it's tragic. It's a nice, dramatic, tragic moment.
Yeah, it's like him trying to do better and then...
And just not.
And not. Yeah, it's like that's very, like, real, right?
Yeah, totally.
That leads us back to the island. Jack comes up to Locke and basically...
Jack is like, I got guns, motherfucker!
Yeah, he's like... Tell you what, Locke, I'm strapped. In fact, we can all...
I got guns for everybody.
I got guns for everyone. Yeah, he's
I brought guns for the whole class.
Yeah. So he takes Locke to the stashed briefcase and busts out the briefcase of guns. And I think this is actually a good payoff for that. because I like that it's like, we kind of know that, like, Locke, it, like, makes a lot of sense why Jack is like, okay, Locke kind of knows what's up in this situation.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give him a gun. But also, we as the audience know, like, that's potentially very dangerous.
That
you
Jack
know?
might not, actually really ultimately want Locke having a gun. Yeah.
Right. So I think that's pretty
It's good.
cool.
I agree.
Yeah, it's some good drama.
I think you're right, actually. I hadn't thought about this, but I think you're right that the gun drama and who gets a gun is interesting and cool.
And that's, like, taking advantage of, like, the thing that's cool about the show, where, like, all these characters are, like, allied, but also they have competing interests and, like, internal conflicts and stuff.
They have different dynamics, and they each have their own unique characterization. And
Right. And also I like that this is a place where it's, like, I don't know, where, like, objects mean something, where it's like, okay, we set up this
power.
briefcase of guns. Yeah, it's like, this is actually a huge deal that they have access to firearms, right?
Yeah.
And that it changes the situation potentially dramatically.
And they're choosing who to give, like, literal power to.
Yes. So I think that's pretty cool. For me, that's probably, this thing with the guns is probably, like, the coolest part of the episode.
I think you're probably right.
Like, the way that sort of works out.
Yeah, they end up giving Sawyer a gun. And that's an interesting choice.
Right, because, like, Saeed and Jack and Locke are, like, because they're like, okay, we'll get Saeed a gun, because, you know, he was in the military, so he knows how to use a gun safely, right? And Jack and Locke are getting them, and Charlie's like, I want a gun, I want to shoot the bad guy.
He's the bad guy, yeah.
He's the bad guy, I gotta shoot the bad guy. Locke's like, Charlie, have you ever shot a gun? And Charlie's like, no, I guess not.
Jack's like, go back to bed, little boy. The men have it handled.
I also like the implication of this scene is that none of them told Boone. They were just like...
they all just agreed without speaking about it, like...
Because that would be a fucking stupid idea.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Jack's concern about, like, I'm not giving guns to untrained people. Like, Boone is the guy that you're worried about giving the gun to, right? Because he'll just be like, what? And just start, like, firing blindly into the woods or whatever. Like,
yep.
So I guess that's interesting because they have 4 guns, and it's like, well, we should have as many people armed as possible, right? So who is going to end up with the last gun? Which is like a cool bit of dramatic tension, I think.
Yeah. And I like that. Honestly, it makes sense, and I think it was the right choice to give Sawyer a gun because, he's a dick, I guess, but, like, he hasn't actually done anything to hurt the community, really.
Right. And the other thing is, like, they know that Sawyer can use a gun, you know?
Yeah. He shot that bear.
I just shot a bear.
He, like, can actually aim and shoot at something that is, like, a moving target or whatever, you know? Yeah, he's never done... They trust that he's gonna, like, not want this fucking guy to, like, murder
Exactly.
people.
It's an instance of, you know, like, we might have our petty squabbles, but when it comes to being attacked by an outsider, we're going to all be on the same page. And that's cool. That's a good feeling to have in a show like this, of, like, that type of thing.
Yeah, so it's also, like, while they're talking to Sawyer, I forget how this comes up, but basically, like, Kate's like, hey, could I get a gun?
Yeah.
And they're like, nah, we're out of guns. And Sawyer's like, actually, remember how I have a gun? I just don't have any bullets. Yeah, I just, like, have had a gun since, like, the beginning of the show. Just no bullets for it or whatever. I like that that's brought back. I like when it's, like, the writers are keeping track of, like, that these objects are important, you know?
And they're real, like, and they exist.
Yes. And, like, who currently has things like this is actually, like, can mean a lot, right? Because, like, they're in a situation that's very, like, dependent upon the materials that they have access to.
Yeah, and that it can be used in a positive payoff way instead of oh shit, we have to deal with the fact that somebody has this way.
Right.
Like, it's not a narrative hindrance.
Right.
It's a narrative boon that you should think about how to use.
Yeah. And it's like, this is actually... Because, like, we talked about this in the episode where, like, Kate had the gun and then, like, Boone still... Like, it got, like, moved around and it was very like awkward, or like
It was between the pilot and the second episode. They split the ammo and the gun, and then in the first episode after the pilot, they were just like, never mind, we're just gonna have Kate have the whole gun.
Yeah, and that felt kind of like clumsy,
Dumb.
but like
Yeah.
this feels like a very good way to like have the guns come into play, right?
And I buy that Jack might forget about that gun. Honestly, like I buy that well enough.
Yeah, that would get kind of like lost track of, so people would lose track of it sort of in this situation. So
Yeah, I thought that was good.
yeah, so Kate
So 5 guns.
gets a gun. Sandwiched in the middle of all this gun talk is a flashback scene.
Holy shit, this is my biggest problem tonally. Ooh.
This scene was pretty weird. Yeah, I feel so. Basically, Charlie looking he looks like he got hit by a car.
It's a comedy sketch.
Yeah, and so he's trying to sell a printer to these guys in this conference room or whatever, but he's looking like shit, and he's fumbling all around
Bad
and whatever.
at it, and yeah.
And it's playing this music that's like...
That's the thing, the music. Holy shit. What is this music? Where did this music come from?
Yeah.
Like, it's horrible. I don't understand how this...
Wacky
Yeah, like, it really... It's bizarre, and that's why I made such a point about the previous flashback scene being a dramatic scene depicting a tragedy in Charlie's life.
Yeah.
And then we come to this scene, and not only is it incongruous with the rest of the flashbacks, which I actually liked the tone of, being a tragedy.
Yeah.
But it's also jarring coming from the island stuff. And the music starts immediately. It doesn't... You know, there's a line from whoever did the cinematography in Lord of the Rings, right? Who, like, I think like Elijah Wood or somebody asked him, like, you know, where did the light come from in this scene? Light does not make sense canonically in this scene. And he told him the same place the music comes from, right? So, like, that's like a funny little line about whatever. But, like, yeah, the music at its best in a movie or TV show, it's not happening diegetically all the time in the narrative of the show or whatever's happening, but it's an accompaniment. It feels true to what's happening or whatever.
Right.
This was so out of place. It felt like a sketch.
Yeah, and it's like a really low moment for Charlie, and like, aren't we supposed to be sympathizing with him?
No, it was shocking. it was so, and I've spoken about it before, and I'm sure I'll speak about it again, but I'm not a filmmaker. I don't know how to do things good. So when I know not just that something's wrong, but like exactly what's wrong, that's not good.
Yeah, it's maybe not a great sign.
Yeah, like this does not work. It's really out of place, and it undercuts Charlie's flashbacks and his story and it undercuts your emotion on the island. It undercuts this whole fucking episode. It's bizarre.
Yeah, because
he ends up vomiting into a fax machine, basically.
Yeah, yes. And it's like this
holy shit, you talk about the music. He vomits into the fax machine, and then the music goes ba-dum bum. Like, it literally does that.
It's crazy, too, because, like, this is also an important dramatic beat, which I kind of, like, didn't even realize until talking about it, because, like, the point of this scene is that, like, even though Charlie stole the thing, he's still trying to do the job, but he fucks it up, right?
It's important to Charlie's life here.
Yeah, it's, like, an important thing that he's, like, trying but fails.
I don't know why I remain to be shocked by choices they make like this, but I am.
It's very weird.
It's not a fuck up. It is y'all sat down and decided to do this. Like, and I can't wrap my head around that.
Yeah, it's totally something that, like, it feels like, I mean, it could have been fixed in the edit, you know? It's like, it really is like the music and shit and like how they sort of like frame it. It's like,
yeah, totally. in a different episode, this scene could have worked as humorous.
Yeah,
It could have.
if we weren't setting up like this is Charlie's moment of failure, like his ultimate failure, right?
I don't have enough bad things to say about this scene. It's astonishing how bad it is.
So whack. All right, so they all have all the guns and everything, and basically all the man's club, the Lost Island Man's Club is convening, and they're like, all right, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna use Claire as bait, okay? And then we're gonna see Ethan, and then we're gonna get him. And don't shoot him unless you have to. But we all have guns.
We want him alive.
And then Charlie's like, you can't do that to Claire. And then Claire from behind him is like, how about I decide what I do?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane that people weren't bringing her into this conversation like from the jump.
Yeah, I agree. That Charlie was somehow the gatekeeper of this information for her,
yes.
And they all just kind of went along with that.
That's what's weird. Nobody else is like, yeah, we should tell her.
Yeah, it's strange.
Yeah, it's very strange that they just like presume that Charlie is like being
Is
the
her
gatekeeper
keeper
of that info.
Yeah,
he's like her legal guardian or whatever.
To me in this scene, they're being very. This isn't a big deal, but it's stuff I notice. They're being very open with their guns, just like flashing them around and like
yeah.
And I'm like, if this dude is like stalking you and watching you or whatever, like, don't you want the guns to be a surprise?
Yeah, it's
just weird.
That was kind of a thing I noticed as well, particularly because it's like he must have some awareness of what you're doing because like he knew where the traps were or whatever.
Yeah, well, he's clearly. I was getting the sense of mysterious force out there. Could be watching you at any moment. Could be anywhere.
Yes.
Like basically that vibe.
Yeah.
So like, hide your guns.
Yeah. It's like hide that advantage. But whatever. I don't know. It's kind of minor. But
it's fine. It was just silly. Yeah.
But yeah, this conversation, basically Claire is like, Charlie, stop. You're being a dick. Because you don't presume to speak for me, basically. And Claire volunteers to be bait because she doesn't want anybody else to get hurt. And now, we cut to scene in the jungle. Claire's wandering around in the rain to be bait for their trap. And everybody in the man's club is like hiding in trees and stuff with their guns. And then we see Ethan Rom emerges from the rain, and Claire's like, oh fuck. And then Jack like tackles him, and they have a little brawl, and everybody runs over. And at first Jack's getting his ass kicked again, but then eventually he turns the tables on Ethan, and he fucking kicks his ass, and like he wins this fight, basically.
Hoorah! Punch, punch.
Yeah, I think it's lame that Jack wins this fist fight as
You're
like
absolutely right.
a weird fucking like gimme to his masculinity or something.
No, that's what it is. You're exactly right. He's reclaiming his masculinity because he lost.
Yeah, he lost the fight, and now he needs to win because Jack's a good guy and
it's weak shit.
Bad guy.
Because Jack can be a good guy and lose a fight. Like those can exist at the same time.
Yeah, it's like
I'd rather that. In fact, that would be more interesting. A lot.
Yeah, because it's like that's why they give that to Jack. It's like they could have had
Sawyer, yeah, like
or Sawyer,
any of them, like
basically any of the other people.
Or all of them together, That's
like, the actual thing, is they should have, like...
Piling on, yeah.
Yeah, if everybody, like... And because that could also sell him as, like, more of a threat.
More of a threat, and you get people working together, it works as a theme. They really did just have Jack do it to, tell the audience, it's okay, Jack's not a pussy.
Yeah, I guess.
Like, it's very...
I guess it's so that we can all be like, yeah, go Jack, you got him, nice.
Is it how much? I think that there's a non-zero amount that it is they want in 2004, and I mean this might be true now too. They want men to watch their television program, and they want men to respect Jack, and they think that men are less likely to respect a main protagonist character if he gets beat up.
I don't know. Maybe
I think there's a percent of that. Genuinely, that they're like, no, it's our hero and he needs to win.
It definitely is like, it feels so much like they gave him the win, right? Like, that's what it feels like this is here for. It's very strange.
It's not good.
But anyway, so then they all show up and basically, like, they have Ethan at their whim. But basically, one thing that happened is like when Jack tackled Ethan, Jack's gun like flew out of his grip and like flew over to the side. So then they've all got Ethan, and they're like, he's like, oh shit, I'm really got. And then bam, 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 bam,
Pop, 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 pop.
Yeah, Ethan's full of holes, and it's like, whoa, what the fuck? And they look over, and Charlie just fucking murdered this guy. He grabbed Jack's gun while nobody was paying attention, and I guess he also like followed them. And Ethan is dead.
I was so hyped and excited about this moment for approximately 1.5 seconds.
Yeah, tell me about your emotional journey.
So when he gets all shot up,
uh-huh.
I'm my immediate reaction, and I don't know, maybe this was just how I don't know. This was my immediate reaction, and it was that they were doing the trope, and it's definitely a trope, but that's fine. Of you capture the bad guy, right? And you've got the bad guy. You're gonna interrogate him, and then his bad guy friends kill him. That's how bad guys they are. They don't even want to save their guy. They'll just kill him so that you can't get any information out of him, right? That's how I'm just naturally interpreting it. And I was like, oh, fuck. Ethan's got other dudes out in the forest that were watching this whole fucking thing, and they have fucking rifles and shit. Like, fuck. Like, what the shit is going... Like, this is, And then they gotta be scared all the time, because there's just, like, people in the fucking forest with guns. Oh, shit, fuck, And then it was Charlie, and I was like, oh. Okay. Cool.
I think
that was me.
Yeah, I get that. I think it's like this makes sense from a dramatic standpoint that they're like, you know, Charlie has been feeling like fuck Ethan, whatever. And it's also, but the thing is they fuck this up. I'll talk to you about it. Well, no, I'll talk to you about it because I want to recap the last like flashback before we get in there and stuff.
All right.
In fact, the rest of this episode kind of just like plays out the rest.
Yeah,
we
can kind of just get through it, I think, right?
Yeah, basically it cuts to later in the night, and Jack is like, Charlie, why the fuck did you do that? And Charlie is like, because Ethan deserved to die. And then this launches us into our last flashback, where basically Charlie shows up back at the house of the woman he was deceiving. And she's like, you're a real motherfucker. You lied to me and my dad, and you stole stuff, but I don't get why you took the job. And Charlie's like, well, I guess I wanted to take care of you and be respectable. And she's like, you'll never take care of anybody, Charlie, you fucking loser.
Loser.
And then the last scene is basically like Claire going up to Charlie and being like, hey, I don't remember anything, but I want to trust you for some reason.
She remembers peanut butter.
She remembers she mentions the peanut butter thing. Don't we all remember how sweet the little peanut butter scene was? Except now Charlie actually has demonstrated that he has a very patronizing view of taking care of women. And that wasn't a sweet little gesture to somebody who he thought could use like some form of being cheered up or whatever. It was actually
trying to manipulate her into...
Yeah, it was a weird manipulative tactic.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the thing here. Yeah, so basically, here's the thing about how this, like, plays out. Is, like, basically, Charlie... Here's my read of this, okay?
Okay.
Charlie is projecting shitty parts of himself onto Ethan.
Yeah.
He's projecting his own self-loathing onto Ethan, because like Ethan hurt a woman that he cares about, and Charlie also previously hurt a woman that he cared about.
Yeah.
And so he's projecting this onto Ethan, so he kills Ethan because of his own self-loathing and toxic masculinity and stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like there's an element of something that's interesting there. He's ashamed of his own prior toxic behavior, but then like the way that he tries to remedy that is also toxic and is harmful, and you know, and it's kind of a self-perpetuating thing. And that's potentially interesting. The issue is this last scene with Claire, where she's like, actually, you're all right. I trust you.
Yeah,
even though
I agree.
She has amnesia, right? So, like, from her perspective, all she knows is how Charlie's been in this episode. And therefore to her, Charlie is some guy who hid information from her and then murdered a guy. Like,
Yeah.
that was the whole fucking, that's the whole thing. Why is she?
I think what you're forgetting
Uh-huh.
is the power of peanut butter. And she remembers peanut butter.
It's so dumb.
She's like, I remember a friendship moment. It's like a video game. It's like, you know, you had a little friendship cutscene with somebody. And she's like, wait a minute, I remember that friendship cutscene. We are friends.
It's so stupid, because, like...
It's not good, I agree. It's funny, it didn't piss me off that much, but you're not wrong.
It's just like, why... The thing that is so frustrating is, like, why did they even do the amnesia thing? Like, I understand
Yeah, no, I hear
that
you for sure. Big time.
Yeah, I understand they didn't want her to remember what happened with Ethan for the sake of the audience's dramatic tension of, like, not knowing.
Now we still don't know what
yeah.
the hippie haps is on other people's land or whatever, yeah.
So, like, I get that. But literally, like, I think the drama of the episode would have played out better if she did remember Charlie and, like, literally the same things happened.
Yeah, you could
like, couldn't
change
the exact
where her
same...
amnesia is.
Yeah.
You can also, you know, we'd probably, I'd bitch about it a little bit, but it would be fine.
Yeah.
If you have her be like, I don't know, it was dark, you know? Like,
yeah.
I was in a tent, they kept me in a cave. Like, you know, like...
Yeah. Some shit like that, right?
I agree. The amnesia was a bad decision, and even once they made that bad decision, it wasn't done. Like, you could make that bad decision and still do it better.
Yeah.
Use it better. I agree. I think you're right.
This is yet another thing where it's like, I want the characters' actions to, like, have consequences, like, for their relationships and stuff.
Yeah.
Because, like, this is a point of, like, Charlie kind of betraying everybody, right?
Yep,
he's, like, putting
her
everyone...
and...
Yeah, her and everyone else. Because, like, he's putting everyone in danger because now they can't learn
that's a point I want to talk about
Ethan.
actually. Because I actually really like that. So, I really like the trope of a character saying, I'm part of this group. I'm not like a Sawyer outsider to this group even. I'm part of this group solidly. But I have a stronger personal motivation in this one instance that I'm going to say fuck the group. I don't give a fuck. This is what my life is about right now. This fucking thing.
Right.
And I'm going to do what I need to do. Sorry, y'all. Like, I like that. I really do.
Yeah, and that is, like, a good thing when it happens in this show, right?
Yeah.
When that's done right.
The thing
cool.
for me that, and this isn't a huge complaint, it's just a thing for me. I would have loved for them to have kept Ethan around until the next episode. They have him all tied up. They're not getting anything out of him. They're working on him. They're trying to get information out of him. He's tied up and helpless, and then Charlie murders him. I just, because to me, it's less of a spur of the moment thing. Like here, yes, he was defenseless, and they had captured him, but it was still like in the immediate aftermath of a fight.
Right.
And tensions were high, blood was high. I want Charlie to have done this cold-blooded, right? I want it to have happened methodically and have it be more surprising in that way. Have us think that we're going to have Ethan and Ethan's a character still and that they're going to get information, and then to have Charlie work against the group in that slower paced way. I just would have, that would have been a lot more satisfying to me. And that's kind of what I was talking about with the pacing earlier, is that I think they have time to do it. We've seen some episodes already where I'm like, y'all did not, that episode could have been a 6-minute scene. You know, you got the time.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have seen that personally.
Yeah, like my big thing with it is that
You're right that it hits less hard when it doesn't have ramifications.
Right. And it also, like, just doesn't make sense from, like, Claire's perspective why she's suddenly turning around on this guy now. I
mean, I feel like they've done this before where they kind of have, I mean, they've done it with Charlie and his drug issues, where they have it's almost like they sketch out an outline for where their characters are, where their relationships are, and then episode to episode, they write outside of that outline. They color outside of the lines there.
Uh-huh.
But by the end of the episode, they're back to like, don't forget, this is where we are on our outline. And it's like, but I just watched a whole episode where that wasn't true.
Right, it needs to, like, return to the mean. Or
whatever. Yeah. It's a strange thing they do in this show, yes.
Yeah.
It's not satisfying to as a viewer.
I agree. I honestly, the thing you said like a bit ago, where you're like, well, they're caching these conflicts, and
They put them in a drawer. Yeah.
yeah, and then like they take them out when they want to use them, but like otherwise they don't like affect it. That is such a good observation for like how they write like character conflict and stuff.
It's not a good feel.
No, it feels pretty bad. It makes like things feel very cheap in terms of like, then when they bring those things up out of nowhere, it's like, okay, whatever.
Because you love those moments, right? In any type of drama where something happens and you go, oh shit, this really changes like this changes shit. Now it's a new world, you know? Like,
right.
You love that shit. It's cool. And you feel that less when you're like, oh, probably next week it'll be fine. Like,
yeah, it's like, I guess actually Jack and Kate are friends still.
Yeah.
I guess Charlie doesn't have an issue with drugs. I guess Claire still likes Charlie.
Until that becomes not true again for an episode.
Yeah. It's like, yes. So
I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 episodes from now we'll get a couple scenes with Claire being like, Charlie, you're a real jerk to me 4 episodes ago. Who knows? Maybe it will matter.
yeah.
For those
probably
3 scenes.
That'll probably happen. Honestly.
And then it'll go right back to not mattering.
So fucking dumb. Well, okay.
So yeah, I guess bad episode, but like second viewing, I enjoyed it more. I don't know.
This episode, honestly, like, I'm glad that we were able to get a good discussion out of it, because I remember after the first time I watched it, I was like, I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna even say about this one. Like, I felt so like there was nothing to even talk about. I'm glad that we got some,
we
some
really,
conversation
I feel like
out of
we
it,
did.
you know?
Fun fact,
Yeah.
This was Lindelof's least favorite episode of Lost.
Interesting.
He said that, looking back on it, he thought it was flawed on almost every single level that an episode of Lost could be.
I mean, like,
I thought that was harsh. I've seen episodes worse than this.
There are worse episodes, definitely. I could get just being like, yeah, there was nothing that was like very strong about this episode, really. Like, I think it sets up some conflicts, I guess, with the guns or whatever, but yeah.
Yeah, I just don't think it was the worst either. I thought that was...
No, it's definitely not the worst.
He regretted going back to Charlie's drug stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah, which I guess is somewhat insightful in that we complain about going back and forth between it's a problem, it's not a problem, it's a problem, it's not a problem.
Uh-huh.
So maybe that was him being like, oh yeah, I should have just left that in the past and had it not be a problem. I don't know. But I just thought that was interesting that he thought this was the worst episode of Lost.
Yeah. We do learn more about Charlie's character, but again, this is a situation where I don't know if the show, like, agrees.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
From my perspective, I'm like, oh, okay, so we're seeing that Charlie is still, like, affected by toxic masculinity, right? In, like, all these ways, and, like, his self-loathing.
But yeah, but does the show think that his behavior in this episode, current time, is bad?
Like, I don't know. I think we're supposed to be like, yeah, it was shitty for him to lie to Claire, but ultimately he's a good guy or whatever.
Yes,
but like Claire is kind of
agree.
justified in.
No, she's
Claire
absolutely
would be justified in just being like, nah, fuck you, guy. Like, I
don't want to hang around you just so you can lie to me some more.
Yeah.
No, totally.
So yeah, it also really paints the fucking peanut butter thing in like a shittier light, because it's like, I guess he just like lies to women.
Yeah, it paints it in a worse light,
them.
and it was weird. Like I was joking, but I was also being kind of serious when I talked about how I think they put a lot of weirdly importance on that scene for her having a good memory of him. That to her being like, I remember something with peanut butter and this guy. That really means a lot to me. Like, actually, I think that's how it was portrayed.
Yes, yeah.
Which is weird.
Yeah.
It's just weird, that's all. Claire, I don't know. Find somebody cooler to hang out with.
Yeah. Seriously. It's like, there are definitely people around here who would not be just like lying to you about stuff. But whatever.
But yeah, so I don't know.
I don't know. I'm hoping next episode... What are you hoping for next episode?
Hoping we get some fucking hatch movement. God damn, man. Like, holy shit.
I'm missing that.
Like, what the fuck? It's the thing. It's the thing. I said it at the time when they didn't go back to the hatch after the hatch episode, and they just spent the entire episode showing the same scene with Kate and Sawyer over and over and over.
Uh-huh.
It kills the momentum. I'm becoming less and less excited
Yeah.
about it. And
Definitely.
you can't bring that back. Like, it's gone now. Like, it doesn't... When we return to it, my excitement levels have decreased, and they don't just shoot right back up to where they were. Like,
Totally.
so I'm hoping for Hatch, because I still do want to see what's up with the Hatch, and also just because the further we go without it, the less interesting the reveal will be to me.
Uh-huh.
Like, if they go
Yeah.
another too many more episodes without anything, they could open it up and be like, oh, it's a nuclear submarine embedded into this mountain, and I'd be like, nah, I don't care.
Well,
What about you?
what am I looking forward to? I am looking forward to... Honestly, is it fucked up to say I just, like, want a good episode? Like... I feel like it's been a
No.
minute since we've had one where I was... Well, you know, the previous one, the Michael's episode, I actually did. I liked a lot of things about it.
I thought it had elements of it that were certainly good. We don't need
Yeah,
to
we
rehash that. We
don't
talked
need
about
to
it. We just spent a
rehash
whole
it.
fucking episode. But no, I think
Yeah.
that the core component of Michael's episode being a failure renders the whole episode a failure.
Yeah, it's like... Yeah, that's another one where it's just, like, in the... Where they just, like, fuck something up at the... They just drop the ball at the end, kind of.
Yep. A good episode. That's what you're looking for.
I want a good episode.
You got high hopes, my friend.
You know, I want an episode where, like, at least one of the plot lines is just, like, strong all the way through. Is that too much to ask?
I have not seen this show all the way through. You have. Judging from what we've seen, I would say it's a high ask, but
It is kind of a...
that's just me.
Okay, here's what I'll say. The next episode, do you want to take a guess as to who it's about?
I guess.
Yeah.
I'm
give me
gonna
a
guess.
Or do you want a hint?
Yeah, give me a hint.
It's another character who we have seen flashbacks
Oh,
of.
motherfucker, I was gonna hope that it was like Hurley or Jin. Okay. A repeat. It's gonna be a Locke episode.
Good guess. It is going to be a Sawyer episode.
I'll take it. I'll take me some Sawyer. Sawyer was great in this episode. I loved him. He was great.
That's what I'm looking forward to. I've been really enjoying Sawyer. He's definitely been a lot of fun.
Oh, totally.
So I'm looking forward to hopefully... Also, the last Sawyer episode was like maybe the best episode of,
Yeah, it was good.
of the
I liked
season. So yeah, that was an episode. Are you happy to be back?
it. Oh, yeah. It's a good time.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Let's fucking
Say goodbye.
Say goodbye. Bye everyone.
Goodbye.
We'll see you next time on the Long Lost podcast for season 1, episode 16. Whatever the fuck it was called. I just closed the tab that had the name of it.
It's called...
Hard Boy 2. Return of Ball Boy.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Say sex.